As we continue to look at our chart of where do we fit in, we're going to be looking today at the Role-Playing Gamer section. So the Role-Playing Gamer section is what we will be focusing on. Let's jump into it. So the Role-Playing Gamer is different from the Tabletop Gamer in that roleplay is more important than the aspects of the character as a standalone piece. The action of the player personifying the character is the driver here, rather than the dice doing all the heavy lifting. We're actually going to be role-playing as our character. We're going to look at the axis, of course, starting with the storytelling axis. On our storytelling and mechanics axis, the mechanics are the more important part. So starting with the mechanics determining success or failure of the story, we know there's an absolute possibility of character death or something going wrong and the story is not able to get through to the planned end from the DM. Additionally, characters and NPCs are affected by mechanics regardless of how it impacts story. The story could continue regardless of character interactions. There's feasibility of interactions and outcomes based solely on mechanics. And then kind of higher end, you're looking at some of the lighter mechanics of encumbrance, tracking, and so forth. So mechanics are definitely important for the role-playing gamer, more so than just the story continuing regardless. There's a chance that mechanically the story could come to a screeching halt. Our rolling play versus role-play axis, role-play here is more important to the role-playing gamer. So starting from the left, we look at pre-planned character origins, so class and race for story tie-in and RP, but there's opportunities to allow the story to shape the progression. So we're going to pre-plan the character that we want to build, so race and class and the background, but we're not going to plan out through level 20. Moving to the right, player interaction should determine if and what is rolled for based on stats. So we're going to role play out what our character is doing and then look for the skills or attributes and abilities that we're going to have to roll to see if we're successful or not. Moving even further to the right, the descriptions are provided for immersion and flavor. There's little bearing on the play, but we love giving lots of description, what we're wearing and what we're doing, who we're interacting with, and so on. Allowing story to lead the character, the NPC, so development and progression without concern of balance or mechanics. So the story is going to determine what we do. We're not going to have a set planned tactical piece until information is presented to us, and then we'll interact with that information. And to the far right, roleplay should determine every interaction. So we want to do talking with the shopkeep, we want to interact with the patrons in the tavern, and we want to do it in a role-playing fashion, playing as the character. So more about role-playing and leaving less to chance on just do I succeed or fail. We want to actually interact at the table as our characters. And like the other charts, we could end up in different locations. If we want to have a little bit of pre-planning and know who our character is, where they come from, and how they interact into the game world, we're going to be lower to the left, especially if we want to have tighter handle on mechanics. We want to know that we can die. And moving on to the next one, if in our interactions we want to have a little more opportunity for the possibility of scraping by and not having absolute success and failure, we want to be to the upper right while we're heavily role-playing our character. We want to see what happens as we interact with the story elements and the persons in the story. We want it to help shape how that story develops and how our characters develop. If we're not quite as ambitious in everything, we want to have good descriptions, and we don't want to describe things and actions that we're doing, but we want more chance of failure, and knowing that our actions impact the story will be a little bit further down and to the left from that aspect. And as a fourth example, if we want to have our characters move through the story really well, we've pre-planned kind of who they are and how we want to get them through the game. We're a little bit more shy at the table. We don't want to interact as our character as much. We still want to roll the dice more often to see, rather than role-playing everything out. We'll be a little bit higher and to the left. Now, in both my experience as well as my research that I've done on this type of how to fit in, I found that most parties who have role-played together for some time fall into this category, especially if they like more rules-driven and utilizing stats and ability modifiers and really taking the mechanics into play, but are comfortable with each other and comfortable kind of stepping out of the box and creative in creating both stories and or characters or NPCs and game worlds. I found that most times, if you find a group of people who are role-playing gamers, they've been playing for some time, they have some experience, and they're comfortable with each other and have started to lose some of the fears of that social anxiety, or they've got just a little bit more creativity and possibly theater background. They've done a little bit of improv, and they're not afraid to take on the persona of their character to role play it out for their own enjoyment as well as the enjoyment of their table mates. Now, if you find yourself in this role-playing gamer category, I think that's probably the most sought after by dungeon masters, in my research anyhow. This is definitely the type of player that I really enjoy having in my games. And it really is fun to be a role-playing gamer as well, because interacting as your character is just so fun, and you get to do so much fun things that you don't normally get to do in your everyday life. As we continue this series, we've got one more quadrant to explore, but the role-playing gamer was one that I was really looking forward to because, again, I find as a DM myself, I love having this type of player at my table, and I love trying to get new players to become these role-playing style gamers, just because the opportunity to kind of play out the quirks and characteristics of your character, look at ways to be creative and innovative with their backstories and tie that into the story, and still let the story dictate how your character progresses through the game and what happens through that character story, I think is a fantastic experience, and I definitely enjoy that as a player. So we've got one more quadrant to explore. We'll get to that video next. In the meantime, make sure to leave a comment and let me know if you agree or disagree, what you've thought of the series so far, what changes you would make, and this may be something where we do some tweaks based on feedback and do a follow-up video maybe a month or 3 months down the road, just to see what people have thought and how it's impacted their games and their game playing. So we'll see you on the next and final video of this series. Thanks for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. Here's another video I think you might enjoy. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up, and make sure to hit that bell so you get notifications whenever we post new videos. Help us answer the question of, where will your adventures take you?